Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. It's Friday, so time for another Fandom Friday video. I'm going to be using a Show Us Your Sheet Load sketch, but let's talk about the products that I'm going to be using today. I'm using this adorable little snowman stamp from the Snow Friend stamp set and this castle stamp from the Park Cuties stamp set, again, both from Kindred stamps. The Snow Family stamp set, or sorry, Snow Friend stamp set has been retired, and there is a Snow Family stamp set that has replaced it. So I did link that down below in my description box if you're looking for something similar. I'm going to start with stamping my castle. I'm using some Ivory cardstock. It has like a opalescent kind of feel to it. It's very shiny. It's off-white. To me, it's going to help me create a pretty snow or ice castle. That's what I am stamping. And to create it to look like a snow or ice castle, I'm going to be stamping in a blue color. So I chose Warm Breeze VersaFine Clair. I thought it matched my cardstock and pattern paper as best as I could. And I'm going to stamp it using my Misty. As you can see, I do need to add a little bit more pressure in a couple areas. So using a Misty or another stamping platform just helps when I need to fix a couple areas. Once I'm done stamping with my VersaFine Clair, I'm going to grab some embossing powder. I'm going to use Holographic from Ranger, and it's a clear embossing powder that has a holographic shine or an iridescent shine to it. So I went ahead and applied that all over where I stamped, and then I used my heat gun to melt down that embossing powder, and it creates this really shiny and raised border where I have stamped. It's kind of hard to see the holographic shine, but it's there. It really adds to the cardstock that I used and really gives it that icy, shiny feel that I'm going for. I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut that out off camera, and I'm going to add a little bit more color to it by using a distress crayon in the color Wonderland. This is from the Ranger Christmas Holiday or Christmas or Holiday set number 6 Pearlescent crayons. And I actually don't really use these very much. Bought them because I thought they were shiny and pretty, and I like shiny and pretty things. So I was trying to figure out how I wanted to add color to my ice castle. And so I brought out the crayon and just tested it on some cardstock, and I really liked how it was easy to blend, just like with my finger here, and spread out that color. I think it's also like the texture of the cardstock is a little bit smoother and easy to just blend that right on with my finger. So I'm adding color from the crayon onto the cardstock, following where I think there would be shadow or, a darker area to the ice or the snow. Well, ice castle. We'll go with ice castle. And I just spread that color out with my finger. So I'm adding just a little bit at a time. I did, if you add too much, it's going to darken it more than I want. I really just wanted to create a little bit of shadow and a little bit of color, but not using alcohol markers or watercoloring. And I found that to turn out really fun, and I'm happy with how it looks. I'm going to move on to stamping my little snowman friend here. So I am using my ink on 3 Blackout ink, which is perfect for alcohol marker coloring. And I'm stamping on some Express It alcohol marker friendly cardstock. And I'll go ahead and zoom in here, and I'm going to just grab my Ohuhu markers today. I do use one Copic because I need to get a replacement for the orange that I like to use most for my Ohuhus, but I'm using CG020 to be one of the shades of my snowman. Now he is very white or icy colored because he is made of snow, so I'm trying to stick to light cool grays and just adding a little bit of color and adding a little bit of shadow. I wanted to darken up just a little bit of a few of the areas, so I'm bringing in CG200. It's a similar cool gray but a little bit darker, so just adding in a little more shadow and some stippling. And then I'll bring in my colorless blender and just try to kind of blend in that, make it less sharp, I guess you could say. I'm using it as the lighter shade of my grays. I brought in YR15 from Copic to be the orange of the nose. And then for the inside of the mouth, I'm using CG050, which is just a little bit darker shade of a gray. NG09 to add the little coal buttons on his body, and then BR1 to add in the brown branches on his head as well as his arms. So I did mention earlier in the video that my card layout is going to be inspired by a Show Us Your Sheet Load. It's actually the very first sheet load that Call Me Crafty Al put out on her YouTube channel. So I'm excited to use that as today's inspiration. I'm also going to be, or I have already by the time this goes up, submit this project as my craft roulette project for last Friday, which was the 3rd, if I'm doing math in my head real quick, which is not always the easiest to do. But I did use this project or this card to submit for last Friday's episode of Craft Roulette. So I went ahead and finished my coloring. I added a little bit of white gel pen to the cheeks because I did use a rose pink color to add in little rosy cheeks, and I fussy cut him out as well. I did die cut a sentiment strip from the Kindred die set to stamp my sentiment, and I stamped it more towards the right because I'm going to turn it into a tag. So I'm going to get to assembling my card. I did alter the original sketch a little by cutting my background piece to have a white border. So that differs from the sketch that I cut that panel to be 4 by 5 1/4. But all of the rest of the dimensions, I am using the original Show Us Your Sheet Load sketch, which I will have Crafty Al's video not pinged, oh my goodness, listed in my description, but it won't be there forever because sheet loads are going into the vault. So if you want to check out this sheet load, you should do it right away because at the end of the month, the sheet load is going into the vault. So I am just going to finish adding in my little fishtail banner here. I did my cutting my paper trimming. So I have that solid Peacock cardstock, a really pretty pattern paper from Sizzix. It's retired. It was gifted to me from Sizzix. So I am just using my stash for this card. And then I'm using some more of the Ivory cardstock, but this one is a glitter cardstock. So I'm using that to bring in more shine and tie in more of that ivory color that is from my, or on my castle, or that is used to make my castle. That's better. So I'm layering everything together with my double-sided adhesive. I'm not adding too much dimension here when I'm adding these layers together, but I will bring in some foam adhesive for my sentiment strip and my little snowman. I realized here that I wanted to trim my strip to match up with the edge of the solid cardstock. I forgot that that was in my head earlier to do before I glued everything to a card base, but that's okay. I just eyeballed it and trimmed my sentiment strip down. And I'm using a hole punch to create a hole so I can turn my sentiment strip into a tag. Craft Roulette's project was to include a tag. The project could be a tag or include a tag, and I don't like tags. They're not my favorite thing to make. So I decided to add a tag as my sentiment strip. So I created that little hole, and I'm adding some baker's twine that I've had forever in my stash. I will link down below in the description similar options, but this is really old from Stampin' Up, I believe. I love baker's twine if I ever do add any type of ribbon or string, so that's why I still have it and hoard it. So I have my tag sentiment ready. I'm going to have it go across the top of my card, and then I will also add my little snowman in front of the castle. So I'm going to use liquid adhesive to glue my castle down just because there's a lot of smaller areas to add adhesive, and I thought it would be easier to use liquid adhesive than a tape runner. And I'm just going to line that up to pretty much match where my pattern paper is on the card. It like literally fits in there just perfectly height-wise. I'm going to grab some thin foam adhesive squares and add foam adhesive to the back of my sentiment tag, peel off those little release papers, and then I was getting overwhelmed with how much stuff was on my desk, so I cleaned that up, and I'm adding that sentiment to the top of my card. I kind of fiddled around if I wanted to place it somewhere else, but it really just did look the best at the top of the card. And then I added my snowman with foam adhesive as well, and I'm adding him a little off-centered. I didn't want to cover all of the details of the castle. I wanted some of that to still show, so I'm putting him just a little off-centered. I went back and forth if I should add the Snow Queen image to this card, but I spent so much time and effort coloring the castle, I didn't want to cover it up. I really liked how it turned out with the embossing and the distress crayon, so I'm going to go ahead and just let that be the star of the show of the card. So now I'm going to stamp the inside. I'm stamping this one to be a birthday card. I am trying to be better about making more birthday cards this year, and then also stamping on the inside of the cards. I'm not very good at that, so that is a crafty resolution for me this year, is to try to be better about putting sentiments on the inside. But I did end up making like 20 of these cards total. I didn't turn all the sentiments into tags. I will say that. This is the only tag that I created, but I made a bunch of these cards to send out as New Year's Day cards and to say thank you for Christmas gifts or spending time with our family for the holidays. So I did adapt these for New Year's Day cards to send out, as well as some of my crafty friends who might get a little card from me in the mail. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!